In this video, I'm going over the 4th boss in the Mythic Plus version of Halls of Infusion. I'll be going over exact mechanics and sharing what to do from the perspective of a tank, healer, and DPS, so no matter what role you play, you'll be able to clear this boss on higher keys. If you guys enjoy tips and tricks like this, be sure to subscribe to this channel and check out this content live on my Twitch channel. I'll put a link in the description below where I run Mythic Plus with the community. Now, do note, in this video, I'm only going over bosses. I did another video, link in the description below, where I go over the exact route you need to get to 100% and explain every mechanic for every trash mob, what to interrupt, what to stun, what to avoid. But for this video, let's dive right into the boss. This is the 4th and final boss in Halls of Infusion. Now, throughout this entire fight, we'll be taking a look at my meters right here. I do use big wigs for raids and little wigs for dungeons. If you guys want, click the link in the description below to get into our Discord. We have a guides and resources category where we share the best add-ons and weak auras to help you succeed in 10.1 Season 2. First mechanic that we're going to see right here, you notice that I've got a skull marker down. I'm in comms with members of our guild and community, which, by the way, if you want to catch this content out live on Twitch, I do run with the community. Link in the description below. Susie Live is my Twitch name. Come hang out. I put a skull here for us all to stack. Why? Because we're about to get a mechanic. Tempest Fury right there is AoE damage, unavoidable, goes out to the whole team, and look at all of us, half health, massive damage. Again, that was Tempest Fury. But the reason we're stacked is for infused globules, if that's even how you say it. We're stacked right there. Why? Because at the end of this cast, it's going to put a circle on the ground where almost like this floating water orb not only spawns, but then kind of starts like slowly moving around. It is baited on every player, and there are random ones around the map. But us stacking it first means that we're going to stack them all in a small area, meaning that we're kind of cleaning up the room a little bit. Again, there's other random ones that will spawn around the room, so you can't perfectly make the arena clean, but it's better to have a few stacked and a few stragglers rather than them just all around the room, which will give you less space to move. They move around, so it's increasing your chance of getting hit. So you can start off being stacked, and then you can spread from there. Next ability is called Squall Buffet. Now, this is a tank-only mechanic, and this one is very important to understand. Two things about this boss. If nobody is in melee range, the boss will do unstoppable AoE damage to the team. But also, if the tank is not in melee range, because this boss does not move, he is stationary in the center, he will melee attack whoever is closest. And I make that mistake, and you'll see one of my melee pay the price here in a little bit. But Squall Buffet is super important to understand because it is a tank knockback coming right now. And as a tank, because I'm aware of the melee range, I'm aware of the AoE damage that goes out if no one's in melee range, and I'm aware that if I'm not there, he'll smack my teammates. I go on my horse, and I immediately want to get back into range. So one thing that melee can do during this is if they are afraid of the tank not getting back in time, all melee can actually back away. Now you might think, well, if everyone backs away, the boss will do AoE damage. Correct, but it'd be better for you guys to take a little bit of AoE damage than for one of your DPS to just get one shot. So if you are afraid, if you're in a pug and you're afraid of your tank not getting back in time, as a melee, you can actually just back away for a little bit until your tank is there. You'll be fine. Paladins can obviously use their horse to get back into melee as a tank. Obviously, demon hunters have their dash. We've got charge or heroic leap from a warrior. Monks have their roll. When you get knocked back, tanks, you want to immediately make sure to get back into melee range so it does not kill your team. Another mechanic going off here that we see is infused globules again. So you can see that some of the melee, again, we're pretty close to each other to try and bait those. Me and the healer bait pretty well, and those go off. And again, they are moving, so we want to be careful. Tempest Fury is just more, again, AoE damage, unavoidable going out. Now, notice I do something really well here, okay? I made sure to kite to the left. Why? Because I wanted to make sure that not only did I get out of those circles, but as a tank, I'm always looking to put myself in a safe place where in case there is a knockback coming, I'm not going to get knocked back into an orb, which you'll actually see me do successfully later in this video. Next ability is a very important one as well. Submerge. The boss is going to go underground, throw everyone into an orb. There will always be 3 different groups. A tank and a healer will always be grouped with a DPS, and then there will always be one DPS that'll be by themselves. It's going to bring you to the end of this long hallway where basically you just need to run back to the boss. You'll see these water orbs floating around. Do not touch them. Not only will you get damage, but then they'll become big blue circles kind of blocking the path. You'll have the same water, tornado, tsunamis, whatever you want to call them from earlier. You just want to dodge those. They will damage you and knock you back if you hit them. And then you just run back to safety. This next part is mega important. You see, there are 4 trash mobs around here casting an ability called Infuse. For every 5 seconds that this mob casts, they are increasing the boss's damage by 1%. They are making the boss 1% stronger every 5 seconds per mob. There's 4 of them. So that means if you do not interrupt these abilities, the boss is getting 4% stronger every 5 seconds, especially on a higher tyrannical key. That is going to be felt extremely hard when you get out of this phase. So you want to be sure to interrupt these mobs, but here's the catch. When you interrupt them, then they will start doing AoE damage that cannot be interrupted. It can only be stunned. So it is a very unique dance that you need to coordinate with your team. So this is how our team deals with it. You notice we go in and we instantly start interrupting these mobs. I do an Avenger Shield on that one, and then we are about to get an interrupt on this one. Again, I don't want to let them free cast. Well, you might say, well, Susie, your group is spread. There's some in the back. How are you going to be able to group them? Our Demon Hunter Deco does an absolute huge brain play. We don't just want to interrupt them all, because if we do, then we have to do with uninterruptible AoE damage. So if you notice, as we're interrupting these 2 right here, we're getting them together to cleave them down. You notice that the Demon Hunter has imprisoned one in the back here for the next 46 seconds and has put crowd control on this one here as well. This is a huge tip, because here is what the Demon Hunter has done for us. He has not interrupted them technically, so they are no longer casting and making the boss stronger, but they're not going to run over to us and do AoE damage. This was the best case scenario. Now we've been able to actually get both of these interrupted, and now we're cleaving them down. But if you notice right here from our Holy Paladin, he throws a Hodge on this guy, so he can't do the uninterruptible AoE damage. That's going out. I let the other players actually keep on DPSing those down while we start going over. Right there, we saw a ROP from the monk, another way to interrupt a cast, even if it's not physically interruptible. Anything that you do can move them, to displace them, stun them. Pretty much any form of crowd control is going to interrupt those casts. So we're continuing to move on. They get the first one down. I'm kiting to the second one. I already wake that one up because I know that other one is about to go down. As a tank, especially in Mythic Plus with a timer, I'm always thinking through how can I do things as quickly as possible. I noticed that this guy is 4%. So even if he starts casting, they're going to kill it before the cast goes off. This guy starts casting. You'll notice that the monk leg sweeps. We interrupt that one. Easy peasy. We've got plenty of CC to cycle. He's about to die. I wake up the imprisoned one, and I also, I believe, have my Hodge. No, my Hodge is on cooldown. But I know that between all of us, we've got enough interrupts to keep this guy crowd controlled. After we get that, then the boss is back. But remember, the boss is now a little bit stronger, because even if you interrupted those, for every 5 seconds, the boss is getting 1% stronger. So if your team let that cast go off for a long time, be wary, the boss is going to do a lot more damage. Tempest Fury is what to happen. More raid-wide damage. You notice us getting some of us stacking a little bit closer to bait the infused globules. Me and the monk do a great job right there. Now here is where I do a good job with my movement. Remember, this is only for the tank. Squall Buffet, which is coming up next, is a knockback. When you are tanking, you want to really be mindful what is behind you, because I do not want to get knocked back into one of these floating circles. So I notice it's coming up, and I notice I'm a little bit too close to these circles. So I move to the left to safety where I know there's nothing here. My back is totally safe. I get knocked back into safety, but again, I immediately am trying to run back in, and I actually make a mistake here coming up, right? I pops the defensives. We're good. I make a mistake here of being a little bit too far out of melee range, and you're going to notice in a second that my Demon Hunter is going to pay the price. I was just out of melee range by just a little bit. And the boss, because he can't be kited, he's stationary. You'll notice here, I'm a little bit, notice the red line, that's hitbox. I'm a little bit out of range. This was my mistake. Demon Hunter goes in, just like you should, right? You should be able to trust your tank to be in the right melee range. And because I'm not close enough, he ends up smacking my Demon Hunter and going down. So be sure to be in melee range. If you're doing a pug and maybe don't really necessarily feel confidence in the people around you, which is pretty typical, you can just be sure to be mindful. Always try to be behind where the tank is. And that's pretty much the mechanics. As long as you guys interrupt those ads, stack for the infused globules, and the tank, make sure to get back in as soon as possible for after the Squall Buffet knockback happens, you should be able to get this boss down. Obviously, all bosses on higher tyrannical keys are going to be tough, but these mechanics are pretty straightforward. I wouldn't consider this to be the hardest one in the dungeon. But if you guys do enjoy these kind of tips and tricks, be sure to subscribe to this channel and join our community. If you're tired of toxicity and tired of only pugging these dungeons, come join our Discord, Unity Gaming. We're on a mission to bring an end to toxicity and loneliness in the WoW community. We've got Mythic Plus Mondays happening every week and so much more. Click the link in the description and get plugged in today. Thank you for watching this video and to all that support on Patreon. You guys are incredible. We'll catch you in the next one.